See here. Cool. We should be live Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, all over the place. So yeah, awesome. And here we go. Kevin's on too. We got both of the two guys. Perfect. Awesome. There we go, Matt. It looked like whenever you got on originally, I was making a joke. Like you look like you're in the middle of your training for American Ninja Warrior, but you said you can talk a little bit about that experience. Like how is it? Yeah.
So it was a very amazing experience. A lot more nerve-wracking than I expected, to be honest. I didn't having all those lights on you and all these cameras from all angles, but it was a blast. I mean, everyone on the crew was amazing. The whole experience was amazing. It does air, so I don't know if I get airtime. I won't know for a couple weeks. They won't let me know, but it's going to be airing June 6th. So that's the first episode.
Nice.
So
that's exciting, man. Yeah. When when you do know, obviously, when you're allowed to tell us, let us know. Would love to see you, see how you do. But I know you were training a lot for that. So, that's exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, we're pretty excited. Luckily, I got some of my crew got to kind of watch and cheer me on from remote. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah. It's exciting, man. And Kevin, appreciate you joining us too today. Both you guys always have a great time with you both. So I think I was looking, it was like last time we did this for our community. So, I know by popular demand, always have people, recognize you guys and always have a great time with you. So appreciate you both coming on and hanging out with our audience today.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
Nice. Awesome. Well, depending upon where you are, this could be virtual happy hour. This could be virtual lunch and learn. We're calling it kind of like an afternoon hangout. But again, feel free to jump in, say where you're watching from. Hit that like button as well. Always love to have people engage with us and have more of our DealMachine members see it in their YouTube feed and jump on and join us. So love to always say hey to everybody as we go along. I know. Throughout this, we like to keep this as interactive as possible. So both these guys, Matthew and Kevin, you guys do an awesome job of being, available online and putting stuff out there and just educating people. But appreciate you spending your time with our audience and, feel free to come in with specific questions on what you're dealing with in your real estate journey. And they're here to help. So I know today we're talking just broadly the do's and don'ts in real estate. So very, very broad, really anything in the real estate investing world, I think you guys can speak on. At this point, how many, like from a portfolio standpoint, how many flips, how many units have you guys, it's crazy the scale you've done.
So we've gotten up to over 500 rental units at our max. We've actually bought more since then. We sold off some. So rental wise, we've had probably, close to 700 units actually.
Yeah.
And in total.
A lot of tenants in and out of those 500 units over those years.
No kidding.
Yeah. And then we've probably flipped. Now, flips a relative term. Some of that was like wholesale, or actually, fix and flip. We've probably done over 500.
Nice. Yeah. I knew I needed an updated number. I think you guys were at like 300 last year. So that's phenomenal how fast you're growing. But everybody tuning in, you might know them as Two Guys Take on Real Estate. I know you guys have a great TikTok with it's like almost 1 million on there. Checking you guys out. You've got your YouTube content. I think in general, I'll try to post links to some of that as we go here. But in general, you guys are putting out top tier stuff. So maybe can you kind of start
top tier? Come on,
top tier in terms of entertaining, and you get a little value out of it too. But,
we try.
You'll learn a thing here too, here and there. But can you maybe talk more about how you guys got into real estate, your experience in that world, and give people a little more context too for those who might not be familiar with you?
Yeah, sure. I can jump in. I know Matt's driving and freezing and maybe crashed into a school bus just there. We don't know, but no, we get started because I think ultimately we really subscribe to the idea that we don't want to just always make other people successful. We want to work for ourselves and make ourselves successful. Real estate is a great thing to get into if you're looking to build real wealth. I mean, a lot of the people that became financially successful did it through real estate. So it's an amazing vehicle and opportunity to really have a path to financial success. we started with pooling together about $15,000. Very realistic. We were not made of money. We're not trust fund babies. I wish, we'd be doing these live streams from like a yacht in sunny South Florida somewhere, but instead you can see we're in dreary Massachusetts. And no, we started off with nothing. We pulled together 15 grand. We used a hard money lender to get our start on our first acquisition and renovation project. And we used what's called the BRRRR method today on our very first two-family property. And we just kept on going.
There we go. So now we're here today. Yeah.
Yep.
Matthew, if you can hear us, anything to add there on the journey from your perspective?
Not really. I mean, yeah, it was a lot of trial and tribulations. I mean, we've learned by making a lot of mistakes. And so one of the reasons why we actually started the channel too, and all the, Two Guys Take, was to kind of help people learn from all the stupid things we've done over the years.
And still do to this day. We not a week goes by we don't do something stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure, the do's and don'ts. That's where we, I know you guys are always super transparent about how to share those lessons with people, and I know we have people tuning in. It looks like Las Vegas, Columbus, Indiana, Terre Haute, Indiana.
You had me at Las Vegas. I'm going to visit. Let's go.
There we go. Yeah, Joseph, you'll have to hang out.
No, not Joseph. Jane, maybe. Can we get a Jane in Las Vegas that wants me to come hang out? What the heck? Come on.
Sadly, no. But hey,
it's all
right. I know for you guys, one thing that you often touch on, and one thing we talked about last time was, yes, the BRRRR method, but also like driving for dollars. And obviously, like from a DealMachine perspective, we're trying to be much broader than that and be just the go-to tool to really help give everyone the power of real estate investing is our mission. But driving for dollars is really the place that we started and have evolved from there. So can you maybe talk about your experience there too for people tuning in to really help? If I know Matt's a little frozen, literally, maybe he is driving for dollars right now. I'll try to.
Matt's so excited about driving for dollars.
Matt's excited. But maybe can you talk about that a little bit too?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, honestly, if you're a follower of anybody that's watching this and recognizes me from Two Guys Take on Real Estate, I talked about one of my favorite ones, which was how I freaking bought a house on my way to go get a coffee one day. I literally was driving down a road, saw this dump of a house. It looked haunted. It needed, renovation and an exorcism. I mean, it was a rough looking place. And I pulled into the driveway like I owned the place. I literally pulled out my phone in the DealMachine app. And I know this seems like a sales pitch or something, but this is exactly what I did. Within 20 minutes of me having noticed this property, I had the owner of the property on the phone. I had a conversation with him, and I had him agreeing to meet me back at the property the next day. So this was a guy who had bought this house 2 years prior. He was planning on renovating it. It was not 1970s, a 1700s property. It was very old. And it was a full gut rehab. It needed everything. So he bought it as a fixer-upper. He was going to flip it. He paid 80 grand for it. Don't mind telling you some of the real numbers here on this stuff. I'm pretty transparent about all of this. And within 20 minutes, I had him agreeing to meet me at the property the next day. He had bought it as a flip. He never got around to it. Life happens. Plans change. He was never going to really do it. And he'd been paying taxes this whole time. The place only got in worse and worse condition the longer he held it and owned it. That leaky roof didn't exactly heal up and make the place any better. So I had a conversation with him the next day after doing a quick walkthrough of the house, and had a simple negotiation on with a contract right there on the hood of my Jeep. And he had bought it for 80, and I said, "Listen, the place is clearly worn down since you bought it, and let's get you out of this thing today." And I just negotiated with him. Ended up getting it under contract for $70,000. And the great thing about that, is what we did with it next. And this is where, if you're in the world of wholesaling and you're buying and using DealMachine to do driving for dollars techniques like I was doing, you could take that contract and sell it to somebody who's going to be a flipper. Sell it to a contractor that's looking for their next project. These are the guys that are looking to line up their next job while their crew is still working. And so they're not out doing driving for dollars stuff, negotiating deals. They're working, and they're doing their renovations. They're waiting and looking for their next deal by reaching out to people like you, a wholesaler. We turned around and sold that property literally for double our money. We sold it for $140,000. And that's something you could have done too, if that's something you had your brain trained to real estate to notice as you're driving down the street.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what we're, anytime we speak on the driving for dollars front, it very much is that it's like, hey, you're building that list that is original, that is, less competition. You're finding those diamonds in the rough that way. So, yeah. And I want Matt to get back on this stream here and say he found a deal as he's driving by. But hopefully, hopefully, I was going to say he's opening the app right there. I love it.
The great thing, I got to tell you, I'm in the middle of doing one literally right now. I went to a property we just bought. We bought a small apartment building. I think it's like 18 units. And I went to the property I've been to the property now a dozen times, including when we were buying it and when we started, working on meeting tenants and doing that kind of thing. And I hadn't noticed up until this time. Sometimes you have to go by these places and notice these, and not you'll see them eventually. But sometimes you'll be like, how did I not spot this any of the times I was here before? There's a property, a single family house right next to the property we just invested in. And it's, got a couple of boarded up windows in the back. The yard is unkempt. And I just jotted the address down and working on it today. I got a hold of the owner, and they actually, my favorite thing they said on the call was, yeah, we'd love to get rid of this place. Like,
there we go. Yeah.
So the opportunity is always out there, and you never know. I mean, you might think there's just no targets, no possibilities, I don't know where to start looking. And you might realize like they're literally right under your nose sometimes. I mean, in my case, there's a lot more real estate under my nose than other people's. But
well, not only that, Kev, talk about, we also reached out to the other building right next door to it because we found out, that there's also no liens on it through the same process.
That's true. Yeah. Did we notice there's another apartment building right next door? And we said, hey, it might be great to buy that property too. It looks like they've owned it for a long time and they don't have a mortgage. So let's give them a call, see if they're interested in cashing out, moving somewhere nice, and retiring with their money.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think in general, when you're taking that approach, we really kind of talk about there's kind of two different strategies that we really try to preach to people, and it's depending upon the situation that they're in and what they're, when it comes to the amount of time that they have every single day and the amount of budget they have every single day. What you're talking about there is definitely, in terms of bang for your buck, going out and training yourself to look for those distressed properties and training yourself to just take a different way to work or to drive around your neighborhood a little bit, or, to be able to go out and kind of take a little bit of time out of your day to be able to look for those properties, create a list of them and reach out to them. Like that driving for dollars method, when it comes to bang for your buck and best return on your investment, that's really what we're preaching to people. I think the other side of it is we've built out on our side a list building option as well, where you can go in and just simply draw around a whole city or a specific block and say, hey, show me all of the high equity properties here, or show me all the vacant properties here. You can get really specific on those filters, and it's going to take a little bit more marketing dollars to get in front of those people, because it's going to be a broader list. It's going to take more marketing touch points typically, because more people have access to that data, meaning that it's going to be more competitive in terms of that particular. But that's a great way to really think about, hey, if you've got some more marketing budget but less time to actually go find those properties, you've got that option. If you have more time to go out and physically look for properties, but maybe some less budget, pursue that driving for dollars option.
The other thing, so we all talk about driving for dollars, but you could also be walking for dollars. So I was just out with my wife and kid the other day. We were walking around our neighborhood, and I noticed that there were a couple properties that had this paper on the front door. And that's almost always a sign that the bank has started something, or there's like a property preservation company involved. And so my wife, of course, like, all right, go ahead, go look at it, go check it out. So I'm like taking pictures, looking in the windows. I'm like, all right, this is definitely vacant. Okay, we'll find out some information, jot it down, send it to the crew. And so we're going to try to hopefully chase those down too. So another way of thinking about it.
Yeah. For our more advanced investors, I know we have a pretty good mix of wholesalers and, also people that are into the fix and flip, the BRRRR method. We'll get on that, mentioning that you guys did your first deal that way. For our more advanced investors watching, what are you guys spending most of your time on in the real estate business right now? Like, I'm sure there's not an average day, but like, what are the most productive activities for you at this point?
Mostly we've been looking at a lot of diversifying out of a little bit less of real estate, residential, but more into like commercial properties, looking at industrial. We've been looking at kind of more triple net type properties. So that's what we've been focusing on, and trying to just kind of expand the portfolio into some other more hands-off-ish type stuff. So we might see a little bit less return than our residential stuff. Maybe we getting at like a 7 or an 8 cap, but where it's much more hands-off. We're looking at like we just locked in. We're locking in a lease right now for a national chain tenant, where it's a 10-year lease, triple net. Where they're taking 4,000 square feet for one of our spaces. It's just fantastic. And we're doing some similar stuff with some other of our properties. So
there you go. Yeah. So you're not just on American Ninja Warrior all day.
No, just playing.
Every morning, that's my focus is training for the first hour and a half of my day. But no, after that, it's all real estate.
Love it. What were you going to say there, Kevin?
No, but most of our time we spend as well. A huge chunk of our time is managing the actual portfolio of stuff we actually already have. So we do spend a lot with our buy and hold type stuff. So, if the properties you're spotting as you're driving for dollars or using these wholesale tactics, a lot of people aren't choosing to necessarily sell the contracts to somebody or buy the house and then resell it as a flip. What a lot of people are ended up doing is they're taking these properties, they're keeping them, and they're going to run them as a buy and hold. Maybe they'll hire a property management company so they don't have to spend so much of their day-to-day doing it like we do. But we choose to self-manage, all of our holdings too. So we spend a lot of time chasing the rent collections down, unclogging those toilets, all that kind of stuff. And it's, if you want to get into more of a passive investing type of a thing, it's something to really think about.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, is there a certain stage where you'd recommend people really think about taking that next step and outsourcing that? Or it sounds like you guys didn't, but
we created a business instead to run it. But yeah, I mean, you have to evaluate how much time you want to spend, managing your property versus how much it costs to have somebody else basically pay somebody else to do that.
Fair.
Well, that and it's finding in your area, is there a really good property manager? Knowing what a good property manager is, because when I first got involved, I bought a property, a 4-family out in Michigan. This was years ago, and before I met Kev. And honestly, train wreck. I hired, I flew out there, evaluated the property. It seemed like, all right, the numbers work, cash flow. The guy said, the realtor, oh yeah, I manage property. Great, I have a manager, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, yeah, sure, manage it for me. Great, yeah, send me the rent checks. Awesome. And honestly, he was stealing from me. So that sucked. And then I kind of had to fire him, went to a large management company. Got all right, I'm going to go the other way. I'll hire the biggest, baddest, management company in the area. And they didn't have time for my properties, and were overcharging me on everything. And they let it go vacant for more 50% more than 3 months in a row. And then the last couple tenants stole everything: the toilet, the kitchen sink, the heating system, the plumbing. And my insurance company basically told me, well, we found out that it's been vacant for 50% more than for 3 months in a row. Therefore, we're not going to cover your policy. And so I was completely SOL.
Man.
So that's
yeah. Is that kind of what inspired you to do this internally, or like, did you find any better way to vet out property management companies, or curious there?
Yeah. So, I mean, that was my first thing. I'm like, that's it. We have to do it ourselves. I want to know every little fine detail. I want to create the systems, be able to have my hands in it. But eventually, go ahead, Kev.
Well, also it's cheaper. I mean, to an extent, you're keeping your rent collections in house, not paying 10% out to somebody else.
Exactly. Right? So that also, it kept our costs down. We had more control. But eventually, we've done a few properties out in like Tennessee, where we did, vet a management company. But now, knowing that we've gone through it for the last 13 years, it's much easier for us to know what a good management company is versus a bad. And knowing that they know the rules, the laws, they have good systems in place to kind of, keep your costs down as the owner and make sure that they are as efficient as possible.
Yeah. How do you go about finding and vetting those out? Like what kinds of, is there a certain resource you do to go find them? And are there certain questions you're asking to really kind of identify that they know what they're doing?
Yeah. So one thing obviously is talking to them about, finding other tenants other owners that they've worked with, talk to those owners, figuring out what their experience has been with them. typically finding ones that have a long track record. Not that they've been in business for 6 months. That typically is not going to be the ideal situation for you. And then I would say, looking at what their process is and asking what their process is for evicting someone, because unfortunately it's part of doing the business, and making sure they have a very clear, defined, SOP or standard operating procedure for eviction. And then also, how do they handle maintenance? What is their procedure for that? How are they handling supplies? Are they going to Home Depot all the time? And are they organizing their work orders so that they're actually maybe going to the property for 3 work orders than just one every all right, I went there once, now I'm going to have another trip charge because I got to go back here. Having some efficiency and some process for that.
Yep, that's great. We have some good questions coming in here too, so feel free again. We want to make it interactive, so feel free to jump in, throw in questions there. Say where you're watching from. I'm here in St. Louis. Where are you guys based on? You look like, Matt, I don't know if you're in town right now, or I know you're Massachusetts, Kevin, right?
We're both in Western Mass, and
Okay.
By the way, your viewers are more than welcome to roast the heck out of us too. We enjoy getting roasted.
I love you guys play to the trolls very well.
We do. So we're most of our properties are really all Western Mass. We did a little bit in Connecticut, but pretty much all Western Mass.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I had one good question come in here. You're talking earlier about what kind of cap rate you're looking at and things. So, question from Al Entrepreneur. What markets are you buying in, and what profit margin do you like? So, cap rate, min flip profit, that metrics like that.
So right now we're buying the commercial stuff that we've been mostly looking at, and larger residential is typically in Western Mass and Northern Connecticut. And we're looking at basically cap rates of around 8% or an 8 cap. Where it's generally turnkey with maybe a value add, as there's been a long-term owner that hasn't raised rents. That's generally what we're looking for. We're not looking right now for taking on large projects. There's so many other, especially with there was a 20 unit that was brought to us, and pretty much it was a gut job, and we could have picked it up for a song, but there's so much risk. And where we're at with the right now with the market curve, I'm just concerned that we'll be, by the time we're done with it, everything will kind of have gone much lower, and I don't want to be caught, kind of trying to catch a falling knife, so to speak.
Yeah, that is one interesting thing I was gonna ask you guys about at some point on here in terms of the market. Like, I know I've had you on in the past and asked you that question, but with how they're projecting out interest rates to rise and things like that, like how are you guys shifting your strategy for the coming rest of the year?
So basically what our focus has been is looking at more turnkey type property. It has to be cash flowing from day one. We're not focused on pro forma data, so we're not trying to anticipate increasing rents drastically. So we're looking at realistic market rents. That because we've seen in 2008 to 2011, I believe it was, we saw 2 years where rents dropped. Fair market rent was dropping. So we need to make sure we're kind of hedging those bets, and that potentially could happen again. So we want to make sure, because rents have been going up quite a bit for the last year. I think we're probably going to see a little bit more of a rent increase this year, but I'm very concerned that that's not going to be sustainable. And so that's why we're very focused on, very carefully picking out what we're looking at purchasing right now. And we're also looking in more like C+ to B- areas.
Got it.
Yeah.
The
thinking behind the change of area classes, we have been very, very time intensive with our C and below type of properties. So again, time is money. So if you're buying or investing in properties that take a lot of time to manage, that's going to cost you in a kind of a less tangible way that you didn't prepare for. So that's where getting into maybe more of the C+, the B- type of areas will help. You still get some okay margins, but they're a little bit more hands off and a little bit more of the autopilot type of property.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think I know you touched on initially, buying, regardless of the class of property, you really focused on the BRRRR method for how you guys initially got your first deal. And I know that's something you often talk about as well. Can you maybe give our audience a little bit of an overview there, and the do's and don'ts that you've learned over the years when it comes to the BRRRR process?
Well, I was talking about it actually today on live. Actually, I pretty much live on live. So you're doing live with you is like my second home basically, because I'm literally on live all the time. And I was talking about it most of the time when people ask me, tell me about your worst tenant. Nobody wants to know about your normal tenant. Everybody wants to know about your train wreck tenant stories. And as you know, part of the BRRRR method, one of the R's, is for rent. So you got to rent it out to somebody. And so our first property is a 2-family house. And I know Matt's driving, and I don't want but I'm sure if he can hear me, he's going to understand that what I always say is our worst tenant was our first tenant. There it is. Yeah. Our worst tenant was our first tenant. And not just because she was this absolutely monster of a person, just this terrible waste of humanness. And she was terrible. She was. But because we didn't know how to manage challenging people, we didn't know how to deal with bad tenants. We didn't know what our rights were, or even our limited rights in a state like Massachusetts, right, are as owners, and how to deal with challenging behaviors. It's very, very similar to how you could have a pretty normal, class of school kids, and as soon as a substitute teacher walks in, that class turns into a zoo, right? It's because the substitute teacher isn't necessarily as equipped or as prepared to deal with people that are going to challenge them. And that's exactly what we had there. So as part of the BRRRR method, when it comes to owning property, everybody talks so much about how to acquire a property, and then they don't always know what to do with it once they've got it, and how to run it, and how to deal with tenants. And so rental can be just the renting aspect can be a huge minefield to navigate. And it was definitely something we dealt with.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say that I'm seeing more and more right now with the BRRRR method is one of the big parts is the refinance to ideally pull your money out. And so you're really, it's contingent on appraisals coming in really well. And what I've been seeing, at least in our market, is that appraisals have often been coming in lower than the purchase amount or stuff like that. So I've seen that now on 3 of our recent appraisals. Talking to a lot of realtors locally, they've been seeing that a lot of them kind of come down. So the appraisers are becoming more and more conservative. I think they're kind of maybe getting a lot of pressure from the banks. I don't know. But there's definitely, at least in our market, that's starting to shift a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing that we really preach on, just because DealMachine, we're in that deal finding, part of the buy phase of the BRRRR process. We really try to preach to people that, hey, even if you're not doing, actively wholesaling a deal a month, or you're out there, even if you're only buying a deal or two a year, or how, your first deal in general, and you have a modest pace, just showing people like, hey, buying at that discount is so incredibly important. And the best way to do that is to go off market. And especially from a BRRRR perspective, like if you want that, appraisal, like you said, to come in where you've rehabbed it and it's worth more, like buying right is the way you're gonna be able to achieve that. So I mean, regardless of how high a volume of deals you're doing, I think buying at the discount, buying with the right price point, the right deal, is the way to be able to do that BRRRR process as effective as possible.
Buying right, getting a great price can cover for a whole lot of problems that will come up later on. So I mean, it sets you up for success. It's really hard to recover and make up money later, if you bought wrong. So buying right is going to be a huge beginning. Yeah. Do
you think when it comes to the BRRRR process too, we probably have a fair number of people in here who are trying to do that first deal, or more. I know if they're wholesaling, transitioning into that the buy and hold model like that, or are interested in it at least. In terms of ways to fund that first deal, I know you talked about hard money as you mentioned it briefly there. Can you maybe talk through do's and don'ts of hard money there?
Well, I mean, for those people that maybe not be too familiar with hard money, hard money is fantastic as a short-term solution. So you can quickly acquire property. Maybe you spot a deal that, you can buy a house, I don't know, $100,000, but you only have 20. In our case, we started with 15, like I mentioned. So you can't really just go to the bank and get get approval for a loan and then you'll miss the deal. These deals are usually time sensitive. They're opportunistic. They're not. It's like finding something on the clearance shelf of the store. You don't wait 2 or 3 weeks to save up some paychecks to then go back to that clearance shelf. Whatever it is you wanted is long gone. So when you're looking at buying opportunistic below market and off market deals like this, you need to have the ability to purchase quickly. And that's really where hard money comes in. So you're paying much, much higher interest rates than if you were going through a regular, normal bank loan. But the idea is you have access to money very, very quickly. What I would say the biggest mistake is don't screw up on estimating the timeline for your stuff and find yourself paying that interest for way longer than you need to, or that you have to, I guess. Because you're going to bleed any profits you made or would make in the deal are going to get bled away into paying into the high interest rates for the hard money loan. And that's something that happens all the time. It can happen a few different ways. If you're using the BRRRR method, for instance, it could happen by your rehab expectations being a month, 2 months, or 3 months, and being double what you expected. And now all of a sudden you're holding a hard money loan a way longer time than you expected to. Maybe you wanted it, maybe you're having a hard time renting it, you didn't know how to price it. People backed out of moving in like you were planning, and it sat vacant for an extra couple of billing cycles. And now month after month, you've had a few extra months added onto your hard money holding, and you're going to lose a lot of money in interest for sure.
There we go. Matt, can you hear us there?
Yep.
Awesome. Any do's and don'ts from you as well when it comes to hard money and best practices you guys have learned?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing about hard money is be in and out as quickly as possible. All too often, that's what I see. There's been some creative hard money lenders that will not even charge you any of the costs, and it rolls it into when you actually close on either the refi or the sale, which is
they
great.
charge it. It's not a big deal.
Cost down. But my concern with that, I see all too often, is people, it's out of sight, out of mind. And all of a sudden now 6 months, 7 months go by, and like, I'll get to the project. It's not costing them anything right now. And all of a sudden then they get at the closing and they just lost $10,000 on all these holding costs for that loan because they didn't actually prioritize getting the project done in a timely fashion.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys know each other, don't you? You have pretty good, pretty good, teaming up advice there.
I know, I'm sorry. Sometimes it's good when we have conflicting points of views. We get a little bit more of the argumentative stuff going. But sorry.
Yeah. So I mean, I think on the DealMachine front too. I mean, we definitely have, I'd say there maybe people listening to this where their focus is bringing the deal to the table, and then figuring out kind of the next step strategy from there. Say if you're using DealMachine, you find a deal, you don't have necessarily the dollars to pay for it long term, and you guys have clearly a good partnership going on. You've been through a thing or two in terms of giving partnership advice. What's the best way to approach a partner with, if you say like, hey, I've got a deal, especially maybe if you want to try to build that portfolio, like, is there a way that you would structure a deal there, or, how would you think through funding that deal in terms of a long-term strategy?
In terms of something with a partner?
Yeah, like in terms of, hey, if you're bringing the deal to the table, and you wanted to partner with somebody to be able to fund that deal, and maybe start a portfolio with them, we might have DealMachine people in that boat. How would you think through the logistics of a partnership like that?
Well, I mean, I guess a couple basic things, like almost like anything else. What's in it for each person? What's in it for me? What's in it for them? Mutual goals. What do we both want to see ultimately come out of this? And then kind of like a little bit of expectations of responsibilities. Maybe one person has a life savings financial abilities that the other person doesn't. So it's like, listen, I'm really handy with drywall, and you've got a bank account, so I'll do the work, you put up the money, and we'll split it. However, so having some clear understanding and then reducing it to writing is probably the other thing too. It's see, Matt's like, so many people start off great and they're on the same page, and then 6 months later, oh, I thought you said this, or no, don't you remember we went out for coffee, then we talked about it this way. And just like with landlord tenant stuff or anything else, having just something simple, it doesn't have to be like a lawyer drew up this huge massive thing. just a recap of your thinking, and this way you guys can refer back to it as and make sure you stay on the right path.
I would say, yeah, it's generally called an operating agreement. I think that's definitely something that should be done at any partnership. I personally would recommend a lawyer putting it together. I mean, think about it. It's either you're tying yourself together like a marriage. People's life situations change. How do you separate divorce? In that fact, who gets what? And then, talking about like value brought, as far as like who gets what, like all too often, I think, and when we first started off, it was everything's 50-50 or everyone, we're all equal partners. But realistically, that everyone brings different value to the equation. And the way I've always tried looking at is like, all right, so the money is maybe X. So a lot of our deals, maybe it's 30% or 40% of the the profit is the actual people bringing the money. So that gets you X value. Then if you want to actually be in the business, there's value there. So someone handling the maintenance and actually doing the construction and lowering the cost down. Okay, there's a value there. You can kind of put a monetary value if they're doing the work, and normally you'd hire a contractor that saves you $30,000 or whatever. Now that's $30,000 in value brought. It's a little bit more intangible when you're doing with tenants and stuff like that. So Kevin is phenomenal with handling tenants and court work. It's hard to really, you can put some value to it because you can hire a lawyer, but I mean, we still have to hire a lawyer to a point. But Kevin handled so many times where we've had to avoid court because of the way he's able to work with tenants. And so that value, maybe it's worth a couple percent. I don't know. We'll see with Kevin.
Wow. Can I come work with you over at DealMachine?
Love it. We are a virtual company. So, hey, there we go. But and also, I mean, you guys are giving a ton of great stuff here. I'm going to throw up your TikTok here. If you do at two guys take on real estate.
Don't follow it. It's so cringy.
I was gonna say, if you don't already, check them out there. Check them out on YouTube all over the place. But
in advance, I'm so sorry for what you're going to see on our TikTok account.
Yeah, if you guys have any specific questions here too, I know we've got a few more minutes here. Feel free to jump in the chat, ask questions here. I've got plenty. I'm firing away on my side, so I appreciate your guys' time with me. But I know the general theme of this is, hey, what are the do's and don'ts of real estate? What are some of those things when it comes to the barriers people put up before they get into real estate? Like, what are some of those things from a mindset perspective that people are doing that, when they actually get into it, they realize, oh, that wasn't a big deal? Like, can you help people kind of smash through some of those barriers here?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest barriers I always hear is that how am I going to get the money? I mean, that, there's no way I can, find the money, stuff like that. Honestly, though, it's so easy. The money is not a problem. I mean, banks want to loan money, hard money lenders. There's so many people that have money sitting in accounts that they're getting only a few percent. They're willing to give you money. If you find a really good deal, like with DealMachine and driving for dollars, stuff like that, I tell you not, the money will follow easily. The key is learning to find a good deal. Once you understand what a real good deal is in your area, in your market, and you can find them, money's going to be no problem at all.
Yeah, I would definitely agree on that. And to supplement it, that was something we did not know and understand early on. And when we needed money and needed money for growth and whatever, we compensated that money way too aggressively, and we gave away the farm to do it. So now we know that the value of that is much lower than you would think, and we won't make that mistake again. But again, this is where we learn from our mistakes. Sometimes it just takes us a while. We're not as bright as we look. I don't know. We don't look that bright. So
right there. Yeah.
But the other thing I would say too, in terms of a mindset about stuff, is people always talk about and gosh, I've been known to talk about bad tenants and tenants, if you're in your properties and stuff, being terrible train wrecks, destroying places, not paying, all this stuff. And that's true. That exists. That's a real thing. And it's going to happen. It's just not going to happen every single time. Everybody talks about when you go to Dunkin' Donuts or the coffee shop and you buy your whatever, and they screwed it up. When they come into the office, they talk about, these people get $15 an hour and they can't even figure out how to spell my name right on the Dunkin' Donuts cup. This is ridiculous. it's because you don't hear them coming in and saying, hey, my coffee got made properly today. Nobody talks about normal situations. Nobody talks about people that just pay their rent on time and just, don't cause a problem. Like nobody comes in and starts kicking and screaming and complaining about that over a beer with the boys, but they do with the bad tenants. That they get all the press, they get all the thing. So don't think if I rent an apartment to somebody, it's absolutely going to be trash. I'm setting myself up for failure. People are usually better than you'd think. However, put a lot of safeguards in so that, you don't let that happen. Don't be that substitute teacher that lets that, that class run amok, know what you're doing a little bit so they don't misbehave.
Yeah, that's a great outlook. I mean, I appreciate you guys coming on and giving such like actionable advice and always giving, being so transparent with everybody on like, hey, well, here's what we've been through as well. I think Matt still hopefully can hear me here. But,
okay,
oh, there he is. Gotcha. Don't know if you were faking me out there, but awesome. So again, really appreciate your guys' time here too. Where can people find you? I know you've obviously got the social media and whatnot going on, but is there any other good place to connect with people?
We're huge on TikTok, obviously, as you threw the link on there, and we're so popular on TikTok. I can't even go to Costco now without getting recognized.
TikTok
celebrity. I'm literally going to put it in my Tinder bio that you saw me on TikTok. Yes, it is okay. But we're really looking to grow our YouTube next. So, we would love the support. We think we offer a tremendous amount of volumes of our experience on YouTube, all of our full-length content on there. It's the same name. I know it's really long, but it's Two Guys Take on Real Estate everywhere you go. So you should be able to find us over there pretty easily. And we would love to have you help us, blow our channel up so we can reach more people.
Of course. Yeah. You guys are putting out great stuff and we'll have to do this again sometime soon as well. And we'll I threw it in the banner right there, but we'll make sure to link to all this as well. And keep doing your thing, guys.
We'll do our best. Thank you.
Right. Appreciate it. Have a good week.
Take care, guys.
Happy deal finding.
Yeah.